So yeah, Canada just made one of the boldest trade moves in recent history, and no one saw it coming. We're talking about a $214 billion power play that might have just flipped the entire global trade game. The US? Caught off guard. Now, the whole world's watching. What does this mean for America? Will we strike back? Or are we looking at a new leader in global trade? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm seriously curious. And if this blew your mind even a little, smash that like button, hit subscribe, because we're just getting started. All right, let's hit rewind. So all of this makes sense. For decades, the United States has been the captain of the global trade team, calling the plays, setting the tone. China, Mexico, Japan, Germany, they've all been major players, sure, but the US still running the show. In 2023 alone, trade between the US and its top 5 partners, over $1.8 trillion. That's not just big money, that's economic dominance. And yeah, we've had some rough patches, trade wars, tariffs, pandemic disruptions, but even through all that, the US stayed at the center of the table, carving the turkey, so to speak. But lately, something's been shifting. While America's been tightening trade policies, wrestling with politics, and taking its eye off the ball, Canada's been out there, making moves. Quiet ones, smart ones, the kind that don't make headlines, until they do. And now, boom! $214 billion later, Canada just signed the Pan-Atlantic Trade Compact, and it's got Washington scrambling. So here's what really went down. Canada brought together some serious players: Germany, Japan, Brazil, South Korea, Vietnam, South Africa. This isn't just an import-export handshake. This is next-gen trade. The deal removes tariffs on clean energy tech, aerospace parts, rare earth minerals, AI software, pharmaceuticals, and yeah, even agriculture. So instead of these countries buying soybeans, lithium, or smart chips from the US, they're now getting it straight from Canada. For the next 20 years, zero tariffs, guaranteed supply chains, locked in. That's not just a deal, that's a trade empire in the making. Here's the kicker. The US wasn't even in the room, not invited, not consulted. Canada's been cooking this up quietly. While global attention stayed fixated on the usual US-China tension, they built trust, offered green incentives, put new digital trade standards on the table. It's smart, it's future-proof, and it's designed to grow. Other countries, including US allies, can opt in over time, which means this $214 billion could just be the opening bid. All right, let's break this down. Because this isn't just some random group of countries scribbling signatures on a trade agreement. These are heavy hitters. And what's even more interesting, a lot of them used to roll tight with the US. First up, Germany. Historically, one of America's closest allies, especially in automotive and tech. But after years of trade tension, tariff threats, and political whiplash coming out of Washington, Germany started shopping for something more stable. Enter Canada, offering clean energy incentives, raw material access, and fewer political strings. Germany didn't hesitate. They said yes. Next, Japan. This one's big. Japan's been a key US partner in semiconductors, innovation, and AI. But Canada's deal? It includes stronger intellectual property protections, faster supply chain processing, and joint investment in AI research. For Japan, that's a win-win. No drama, no delays, just results. Then there's Brazil, a major player in agriculture and energy. Canada's push for green exports and global food security lines up perfectly with Brazil's strengths. They're already syncing up on climate tech and biofuel initiatives. This isn't just trade, it's planet-scale collaboration. Now let's talk about South Korea, another big mover. They're not just in this for trade, they're in it for digital infrastructure, chip manufacturing, EV batteries, and telecom tech. Canada's offering a future-forward roadmap, and South Korea, they're full speed ahead. And then there's Vietnam, the wild card, but don't underestimate them. Vietnam's economy is booming. They've got resources, and more importantly, they're hungry to scale globally. This deal gives them access, exposure, and a clean route to global markets without the tangled politics of US partnerships. Smart move? You bet. What's wild here is that most of the countries in this deal have been longtime economic partners of the US. But instead of waiting around for the next Washington Trade Summit or some drawn-out treaty renegotiation, they're now hedging their bets on Canada. And let's be real, Canada hasn't exactly been seen as a top-tier power player on this level until now. This shift, it's not just about money, it's about trust, stability, the future. So how did we get here? Why are some of America's oldest trade partners suddenly pivoting north? Well, it's not just one thing. It's more like a perfect storm of global pressure and US distractions that Canada quietly capitalized on. Let's start with the obvious. US trade policy's been a roller coaster. Tariffs go up, then down. One administration signs a deal, the next threatens to tear it up. Trade talks stall. Diplomacy gets messy. And for countries trying to make 10 to 20-year plans, that's exhausting. Uncertainty kills confidence. So, while America's been bouncing between gridlock and mixed signals, Canada's been playing the long game. First major advantage? Resources. Canada's got some of the richest rare earth mineral deposits on Earth. The stuff we need to build EV batteries, semiconductors, satellites, green tech, and more. While the US was knee-deep in supply chain battles with China, Canada was offering clean, ethical, reliable sourcing. That's a huge win for nations wanting to move away from risky suppliers. Second, political stability. Look, no government's perfect, including Canada's. But when it comes to trade policy, Canada's been calm, clear, and consistent. No wild U-turns every election cycle, no trade agreements ripped up every 4 years. And that kind of predictability, it's like gold in international trade. It tells global partners, you can plan with us. We're not going to pull the rug out. Now, here's the third piece of the puzzle. Smart immigration and innovation policies. While a lot of countries were scrambling, Canada was doubling down on the future. Big time. They've been making bold moves in high-skill immigration, green tech, and AI development. Translation: their workforce is getting smarter, more specialized, and future-ready. That's a huge signal to global trade partners looking to bet on the next-gen economy. And here's something most people completely miss. According to the World Economic Forum, Canada ranked top 5 globally in economic openness and trade trustworthiness as of 2024. That's not some PR stunt, that's based on hard performance metrics. While the US was tightening up, turning inward, and trying to shield its base, Canada was opening the doors wider. And guess what? The world walked right in. So, what does all of this actually mean for the United States? Short answer? It's a wake-up call. And yeah, kind of a painful one. Let's talk dollars first. When countries like Germany, Japan, and Brazil start shifting big chunks of their trade to Canada, that's not just some spreadsheet adjustment. That's real money. Money the US loses in exports, foreign investment, and global influence. Let's break it down even further. Agriculture? If Canada becomes the new top supplier for soybeans, beef, and grains, especially across Europe and Asia, that's billions of dollars that used to flow into places like Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska, now heading straight north. And what about tech? If global powerhouses like Japan and South Korea start partnering with Canadian firms for AI, semiconductors, and green infrastructure, that's not just lost deals. That's a massive shift in who shapes future innovation and who controls it. That means US companies lose leverage, US workers lose demand, and the US as a whole loses a piece of the innovation edge it's been known for. And then there's the political hit. When longtime allies, countries that used to default to the US first, suddenly start locking in long-term trade deals with Canada instead, it sends a message. Not aggressive, not loud, but clear. A message that says, we're not mad, but we're moving on. Here's the cold, hard truth. We're not sure if the world can count on the US like before. And here's the kicker. These new trade deals, they're not short-term plays. They're built to last, decades long. So by the time America tries to patch things up and rebuild those old ties, it might already be too late to fully catch up. In today's global economy, getting left out isn't just about missing dollars. It means losing momentum, the kind of forward motion that's hard to regain. Now, let's flip the lens. For Canada, this deal is nothing short of massive. That $214 billion agreement? It hands Canada something it hasn't seen in a long time on the world stage: leverage. We're talking instant credibility. Canada's no longer just the polite middleman in North American trade. It's becoming a primary supplier and strategic partner to some of the biggest economies on the planet. Economically, this deal is projected to boost Canada's GDP by up to 2.4% over the next 3 years. That's according to early estimates from the OECD. That's not just good news. That's a serious bump for a country of Canada's size. But this isn't just about raw numbers. This is a win across the board. Tech and AI, more investment, new partnerships, and tons of new jobs. Energy and mining. Global buyers lined up for lithium, nickel, and rare earth minerals, the building blocks of electric vehicles and clean energy tech. Agriculture. Growing international demand means more support for Canadian farmers and exporters. And beyond just dollars and jobs, this deal puts Canada in a whole new geopolitical position. When you control critical resources and offer political stability, suddenly countries want you at the negotiating table. So here's the deal. Canada just scored itself a much louder voice in the world of trade talks, tech rules, climate action, you name it. Not bad for the quiet neighbor down north, huh? And here's what's really cool about this. This isn't some once-in-a-generation lucky break. Canada earned this the smart way: steady planning, savvy diplomacy, and betting on the right industries at exactly the right time. This isn't just a trade deal. It's a full-on power move. Now that this $214 billion agreement is locked and loaded, the big question is, what's next? Well, for starters, the US can't just sit this one out anymore. Washington's already buzzing with talks about reworking NAFTA 2.0, restarting stalled EU trade negotiations, and rolling out fresh incentives to pull partners back in. There's a real shot the US tries to counter with new trade deals in Asia, or maybe even shifts focus toward Africa and Latin America. But here's the catch. While the US gears up to play catch-up, Canada's already lining up the next round of partnerships. Remember, this deal isn't closed off. It's designed to grow. More countries, especially those tired of unpredictable US trade policies, could jump on board. We're talking Scandinavian countries, parts of the Middle East, maybe even Australia. Some experts say this might spark a new era of economic alliances, where countries team up based on stability and shared long-term goals, not just who's got the biggest GDP. If that happens, Canada's positioned itself right at the front of the pack. For everyday folks like us, this means the global marketplace could look totally different soon. Where your tech's made, where your car parts come from, even what shows up in your Amazon cart, it could all shift based on who's running the trade game. Bottom line, this deal isn't just huge, it's a clear signal. The old rules of global trade are changing, and Canada just made its move early. So yeah, Canada just pulled off one of the boldest trade moves in recent memory. A $214 billion power play. That might have just reshuffled the entire global deck. The US wasn't ready, but now the whole world's watching. What do you think this means for the future of trade? Will America strike back, or are we witnessing a new leader rise? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to hear what you think. And hey, if this blew your mind like it did mine, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. We're just getting started.